Welcome to Smash Hit Sports. I am your host, Cody. We have NFL Week 1 to talk about. It was absolutely insane. As a Bengals fan, I hated it. As a Lions fan, I'm sure you were not incredibly happy about it either, but we have an incredible guest, Adam at Everyday FFB on Twitter. He is the host of, in my opinion, the most electric Lions football podcast on the internet. The Honolulu Blues, as well as the Fantasy Six Pack. He's an expert ranker on Fantasy Pros and a contributor for Better Fantasy. He is a much bigger brain than I do, so that's why I'm having him on my show. Adam, pleasure to have you, man. Glad you can make it.
Yeah, what's up? What's up, Cody? Thanks for the intro. That was great. A lot of people that are watching. Is this like live or is it just voice recording? I don't know if I asked you that.
It will be live, so they'll be able to see
cool.
your beautiful face.
And they'll see the Seattle Seahawks shirt I got on after you just touted me as a Lions expert. But yes, I'm also a Seahawks fan and was going crazy after they took down the Broncos last night. I'm sure we'll get to that. But back to the Lions. It was all right. We lost, but ultimately, there was a few good things to take away from it. The top thing, though, DeAndre Swift. Oh, my God, This dude's a freak.
Yeah, I am a big proponent of DeAndre Swift, and he is on several of my fantasy teams. So I really, really appreciate what he was able to do against that Eagles defense. They looked solid. They looked really, really solid. Adam, what are you working on right now that people can go check out?
Yeah, so as always, you can check out, if you're a Lions fan, head on over to Twitter at Honolulu Blues _. We're getting ready to do a DeAndre Swift jersey giveaway as well. So if you're a Swift fan, We're doing a jersey giveaway. Going to be announcing that either today or tomorrow, likely today though. And as always, check me out on Twitter at EverydayFFB. Post all sorts of fantasy football content, stats, memes, GIFs, all that good stuff. And if you're on Fantasy Pros, check out my rankings. I update them weekly and post waiver wire rankings as well.
I love that. We're absolutely going to have to get into the waiver wire, but first, it is called Smash Hit Sports, so we're going to do a little smash or pass segment. I need to know, are you smashing or are you passing Saquon's Week 1 success?
I'm going to smash that. I think he's back, man. He looked pretty good. It really seemed like the offense was running through him. He got the most important play of the game, that 2-point conversion at the very end. They gave it to Saquon, so that just speaks volumes of how much Dabo trusts him already. He proved it, rushed for, I want to say it was like 164 or 84, I can't remember, but it was quite a bit. He dominated on the ground, in the air, everything. He led the team in targets as well, so if you're in PPR and you have Saquon, if he could stay healthy, that's all he needs to do is stay healthy, and you're going to have an RB1.
He looked so explosive, too. It wasn't one of those running back performances where they get 184 yards because they carried the ball 32 times. He just broke off some incredible chunk plays, had an absolutely incredible run early in that game. But I'm buying in on Saquon as well. I need to know, Adam, from a fantasy perspective, smash or pass on the Cowboys' weapons now that Dak is hurt?
Oh, it's tough. And then Jerry Jones just comes out and says, no, it's only going to be 4 to 6 weeks. We're getting Dak back. And that kind of scares me even more. Yeah, man, it's like, how does this old man know what's up? Like, simmer down, buddy. So hopefully they don't rush Dak back because, honestly, I think a bad Dak with a bad thumb is worse than, Cooper Rush just whipping balls at CeeDee Lamb or handing it off to Zeke and tossing it to Pollard, because those are pretty much the only 3 viable weapons right now until Gallup gets back. But for me, I gotta see at least 1 week with Cooper Rush and just how that works before I smash him, because CeeDee Lamb, 2 catches on 11 targets, not the best. Zeke, I think, just had 50 yards on the ground. I know the Bucs have great run D, but still like to see more out of him. And without Dak, it's tough.
Yeah, the Cowboys' offense was disappointing as a whole. The only offense not to score a touchdown in Week 1 definitely makes it tough. I also hope that they don't rush him back. I feel like they have a really great example in Russell Wilson from last year in not rushing your star quarterback back, because Russ didn't play well when he came back from that thumb injury. So hopefully the Cowboys do what's right and take their time. We'll see if they are still in playoff contention at that point. I need to know, Darrell Henderson, over Cam Akers as the running back that you want to own in fantasy football, smash or pass?
I think that's a smash, but there's a part of me that's like, this could be a little tricky because Sean McVay, you never know what he does. There's sometimes you'll see halfway through the season when Akers had his start. Henderson was playing fine, and all of a sudden Akers kind of came in and took his role, and then Henderson played well last year, and then Akers kind of came in and took a role in the playoffs. So it's back and forth. So it wouldn't shock me if Akers' touches went up a little bit, or even like close to a 40-60 in favor of Henderson, but for me, I think an Achilles injury is just a death sentence. I know James Robinson just looked phenomenal, which blows my mind, but Cam Akers, he did not look good. He missed a couple blocks. I think it's just slowly going to add up and eventually keep him off the field.
I think that was the big thing, too, is he looked awful in pass pro, and they're going to want to keep Matthew Stafford upright. Getting sacked as many times as he did in that Bills game is not ideal for the Rams offense.
Yeah. He was having flashbacks of Detroit.
That is something that you don't want to say as a Matthew Stafford believer. But the next team that I know that people were down on the Chiefs offense, and they said, oh, what's it going to look like without Tyreek Hill? And are they still going to be able to put up those insane numbers? They essentially revamped their entire wide receiving core. The Chiefs offense. Are they the best in football?
Best in football? That's, I don't know. Mahomes, I think Mahomes is the best quarterback. I have him as, I think, my QB2. I think I only had Josh Allen higher. And I think Mahomes is on a mission this year to prove everyone that he can be amazing despite whoever he's throwing to. And I think it's a little similar to the Brady ego of him going to Tampa Bay and trying to win a ring without Belichick. I think Mahomes wants to say, take my best wide receiver. I'll show you that I'm still the best quarterback in the NFL. And at the end of the day, it's going to be him and Josh Allen, I think.
Yeah, we don't give out awards for 1 week of football, but if we did, Patrick Mahomes looked like the MVP through 1 week. We already touched about the Cowboys' injury a bit. With Dak, but do you think that they roll with Cooper Rush? Do you think they I know the internet's immediate reaction was like, well, trade for Jimmy G. What's going on with the Cowboys? What do we think happens there?
Yeah, I think they will run with Cooper Rush unless he's just abysmal. Week 1 doesn't score another touchdown again, or week 2, I should say. And then they might look for other options, but it's tough because another great backup is Gardner Minshew, and he's interdivision, so it's like no way the Eagles give him up. And then you got Jimmy G, who, granted, he has a no trade clause, so if he doesn't want to play for Dallas, then that's axed out, so that's not going to work. So it's already, your options are getting limited. I think Cooper Rush will be okay to start. Things might get bumpy depending on who they are playing. I know they're playing the Bengals this week. I think it's going to be a monster bounce back week for the Bengals. They're going to go crazy all over a pretty much just broken Cowboys team. And Dallas will hopefully be able to get a win in these next 2 to 3 games to kind of keep their hopes alive.
Yeah, I don't think that win is going to come against the Bengals, but we'll see. The Cowboys' schedule was a fairly difficult one, if I remember correctly, but they play the Giants and they play the Commanders in the 2 games after the Bengals, so we'll see how that lines up for them. I hope that they can get a win out of that, but I'm not a Cowboys fan, so what do I care,
Exactly.
The Steelers, their steel curtain or portions of that steel curtain are currently out. We don't know how long TJ Watt's going to be out, whether it's a season-ending injury to what some people talked about, like 6 to 8 weeks. How does that defense look without TJ Watt?
Well, they looked phenomenal. I mean, with him, without him, that whole Bengals game, and it shocked me, I'm sure, as much as it shocked you.
Yeah, it was tough.
4 interceptions, 5 turnovers. I was crazy. I was so shocked because I drafted him in, I think, 3 or 4 leagues. I had him as like my QB 7 or 8, and I was thinking, oh, here we go, baby. This is going to be the big year. And then all of a sudden, it was just really wacky. But I did like how the Bengals, just didn't give up hope. I think they should have won this game. Obviously, the snapping, the blocked kick. There's just how all that happens is just so little fluky, ticky-tacky stuff that needs to be corrected and just shouldn't happen ultimately.
Yeah, it's a really weird game for the Bengals because if you turn the ball over 5 times, you would think that they would get blown out. And I was shocked that they got back in it, to be honest with you. And then to put forth all that effort to look that good just for your long snapper to be hurt and then have a blocked extra point and a bad snap and a missed kick. So we'll see. Kickers, tough week for kickers in the NFL last week. That
was crazy.
Insane.
And then you got the Colts just cutting Blankenship today. So I was like, geez, I didn't think he was that bad. Could have been worse.
Absolutely. I think he might end up in Kansas City if Butker misses time this week. So
yeah, that could make sense.
We'll see how that works. The only other injury that, really is impactful from a fantasy standpoint, 49ers running back Elijah Mitchell looks to be out about 2 months. What running back do you want to roster from that 49ers team? It looks like they just signed Marlon Mack to the practice squad. Is there anybody that's worth going out and using your number 1 waiver pickup on?
I'm going with my boy Jeff Wilson. I've said it not earlier, but I guess some friends, so I guess earlier. But I'll say it now. Jeff Wilson, he has proven to be an excellent goal line back. He's proven to be an excellent yards per carry back. He could kind of do it all. He always gets injured when he gets his opportunity, it seems like. So if he can stay healthy for 3, 4, 5, 6 games the rest of the season, then he's going to be a stud. But he's a guy that does get banged up quick, so it wouldn't shock me if he gave you 2 solid weeks and then was out with like a dislocated shoulder with, like Elijah Mitchell, just gone for 2 months. So Jeff Wilson, as of now, he's my number 1 target. I do think that Jordan Mason, keep your eye on him. Probably no one will add him this week, but if Jeff Wilson produces a bad week and Tyrone Artavis Price, I don't know if I pronounced that right, but he's got like 4 names in his whole name. Yeah. So
absolutely electric though.
Yeah, so if he doesn't get it, then we know Shanahan loves his undrafted late round rookies, and that's Jordan Mason. He made the team. He's slowly been working his way up into, the rotation. This is exactly what happened to Elijah Mitchell. He was, I think, like a 6th round pick and worked his way up to the starter and, won the job. So Jordan Mason, keep your eye on him. But as of now, I'm going Jeff Wilson.
Love that. That Jordan Mason, the name gives me a little throwback Trey Mason vibes, old Rams running back. But, let's talk about some of these week 1 games because I need to know. We'll start with Broncos Seahawks. Obviously you got the Seahawks shirt on there. You are ecstatic about the win. How do we feel the Seahawks look going forward? Because they looked like a good football team last night.
So part of me, it's funny because I was 100% convinced the Broncos were going to steamroll this game. And as I'm watching it, I'm like, this is really weird. This would almost be funny if the Seahawks kind of won this. And it's so weird how this game's going. And the next thing you know, we see Nathaniel Hackett the last minute of the game, doesn't call a timeout. It was probably the worst coaching decision I've ever seen. And I went through Matt Patricia, and I've seen, Hugh Jackson, tons of bad coaches in, my time. And this was by far the most botched, worst. I don't even know how you don't call a timeout there when you have 3. I get it if you only have 1 timeout. Okay. If you have 2 timeouts, all right, you're dumb. But 3 timeouts? Blew my mind.
Yeah, that seemed absolutely mind-blowing to me. This might be the dumbest thing that I ever said because I am not an NFL head coach. I will never be an NFL head coach, and I don't know what it's like to have the responsibilities that an NFL head coach has. Maybe they need to play a little bit more Madden. I genuinely believe that if you put Madden will at least help teach you clock management stuff because that's
very true.
Awful. It was awful to watch. And I understand, if you have a plan, you want to stick to it, whatever. You paid Russell Wilson $250 million. And McManus has never made a field goal from that distance. Why is that what you rely? You relied on something that has literally never happened before to happen on Monday night. Doesn't seem like an incredible plan.
I could just imagine McManus going like, you know what, coach? I could get it there. And he goes, can you make it? And he goes, yeah, I can get it there. And he goes, all right, you can make it, right? And he's like, no, I can get it there, though. And then he just drops out. And that's how it went. But, all right, Cody, here's my little take on this whole game. So, you're a sports bettor. For me, this game was a little
it was trappy. It was all 95% of the public was on the Broncos. 95%. I was like, there's no way I'm going to bet this game because the line didn't move at all.
Exactly, yeah. It was all over the place. And then not to mention, like how many, people are just thinking, oh, Russ is homecoming. He's going to dominate. And then how many people I'll sprinkle on Monday Night Football onto my parlay. And I don't know if you saw, but I saw at least two. There was a Barstool guy and then another guy that bet 1,000 and 4,000. 4,000 to win 56,000, 1,000 to win 14. Oh. And it came down to just Denver winning. And neither of them hedged, and guess what happened? So Vegas, they always have a way to get the last laugh. I know people always see these crazy tickets of people betting, $5 to win 80,000. But that's how they afford those giant payouts, is with days like today where they just clean up. And you could even talk about, the college ball games in Notre Dame, Texas A&M, and even Alabama nearly, going down. So Vegas, they always get the last laugh.
Look, as a Notre Dame fan, we're not gonna talk about the Notre Dame game. All right, I was at the game, and that burned every fiber of my
It was probably pretty quiet there. Oh, jeez.
The worst part was I was about 50 yards from the Marshall fan section in the stadium, and they were very loud, especially on that pick six. So it's tough. The only other real outside of the Lions, because I do want to talk about them, and then we'll use that to transition to week 2. But do we know anything about Trey Lance and this 49ers offense? Or are we throwing this game away because it was played in essentially a swamp?
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm chalking it up to be. Pretty much a mud bath. We saw how Justin Fields celebrated at the end. He pretty much slid on water. Well, you couldn't even really see the grass. It was just puddles. And then before the game, they were squeegeeing the field. They actually had squeegees out there pushing the water onto the sides of the field. So for me, the one thing I do take away is Lance's rushing ability. I think he rushed 13 times, which that's good enough for me. If he can do that in a dome on a dry field, he will certainly have produced better than what he did. Debo, the wide receivers didn't really, factor in. They couldn't do their best in that mud bath, get open, allow Lance to, hit the open receiver making plays. So for me, I kind of chalk it up as, nothing.
Yeah, I agree. There were only 19 pass attempts in the first half between both teams. I mean, that just seems incredibly, incredibly fluky. Don't think we're going to have that again. But the Lions had a good game, not a great game. Obviously, they didn't win, but 38-35 lost to the Eagles at home. They covered the spread, which, say what you want about Dan Campbell, but that man covers.
Worst cover machine. Good teams win, great teams cover.
That is what they say. How do we feel about the Lions heading into week 2? They play the Commanders at home. They are favored.
Yeah, and part of that, I think, is because the Commanders aren't going to be without Chase Young, of course, and now they're down, I don't even know how to pronounce this guy, but it's like Phoenician something, crazy first and last name, but he's a starting defensive tackle for him. So now 2 starting defensive linemen are going to be out for the Commanders. We just saw Swift rush for 144 yards on 15 carries against the Eagles, who have a pretty decent, front line, and Jordan Davis, Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham.
Right?
So if Swift can do that against the Eagles last week, Commanders this week should be a breeze. It'll be back at Ford Field too, which was absolutely rocking. I was there. It was probably the loudest I've ever heard Ford Field. It was awesome. Super cool. Game was sold out as well, which was super cool. First time that's happened since 2017 for the Lions. And then it was
I would never have guessed that. I would never have guessed that, because the Lions fan base as a whole, say what you will, they are some dedicated fans, some of the best in football.
It's just those little like nosebleeds, the ticky-tacky ones that wouldn't get sold at the end, I think. But yeah, the Lions, we showed out. It came down to a Jared Goff pick six where him and Hockenson were on two different pages. Goff threw it one way, went to an Eagles guy, tipped, and then James Bradbury was taking it in for 6. And then the other big one was Dan Campbell had the balls to go for an onside kick right after he scored a touchdown. It was weird. We got one in the preseason, so I was like, it makes sense. And I told my mom, I looked right at her and I go, honestly, I feel like he's going to onside kick it here. This totally feels like a Campbell move. And he did. We didn't get it, so it kind of sucked, and it led to the Eagles' final touchdown, and it caused our starting safety, Tracy Walker, to get ejected on that drive, too. So ultimately, those two plays, if we could take them back, I think the Lions win the game.
Honestly, I agree. I haven't really looked through Week 2's lines yet from like a real in-depth standpoint, but looking at it at a first glance, I really like the Lions this week as favorites. Carson Wentz had a lot of ups and a lot of downs last week. It ended on an up, so I think it ends up back down because that is the roller coaster that is Carson Wentz. So I'm going to take the Lions next week. I think they get it done. Get Dan Campbell a win.
Love it. And then also another fact, next year, go place your futures now because Jared Goff is 6-0 covering the spread in week 1. So he's a spread cover monster. He's going to do it again next year. If he's starting, that is.
Yeah, I was going to say if he is starting and if he's on the Lions, who knows?
True.
There are a lot of week 2 games to be excited about. I listed a couple on the show sheet, but we're starting off with another great Thursday night football game. We get 2 in a row. We had Bills-Rams last week. Now we get Chargers at Chiefs. Chiefs are minus 4.5. Over-unders 54.5. No Keenan Allen for the Chargers. Do we think they can get it done in the hostile environment that is Arrowhead?
I don't, but I don't know. Justin Herbert, you never know with that guy. He can just throw and throw and throw and throw to whoever, too, because last week, this is a crazy stat. He's targeted 7 guys, gave 4 targets each, 7 different receivers. So wow. No one had more than 4, but 7 had 4. So super weird stat line. 7 guys had the leading targets on the Chargers squad. Partially had to do with just Mike Williams not being there, Keenan Allen going out early, other wide receivers getting opportunities. But ultimately, if Keenan Allen's not going to be here, which he's not looking like it, I'm looking for Mike Williams bounce back and Joshua Palmer to kind of, make his name for himself. But other than that, I don't think the Chargers are going to cover. I think Pat Mahomes is just on a mission to destroy everyone. I said it earlier. I think he's going to have the best season of his career, or one of them at least, and just show everyone that he is the best and going to be the best.
I love that. I am on the Chargers plus 4.5. I think they're going to cover the spread.
Thank you.
It'll be a good game either way. One of the marquee games on the slate next week. From a fantasy standpoint, if George Kittle ends up not playing again, Gerald Everett, I think, is in a nice spot. Yes. Zach Ertz scored against the Chiefs last week, and Gerald Everett scored. So, career revival.
Yeah,
for,
I like Everett too. Yeah, he's a beast too. He's a guy that could get some nice rack too. He could catch and run. Yeah, like you mentioned, Ertz got in the end zone, so Everett, he could do it again this week.
Love that. Another line that I was really shocked to see, we're going to move on into Sunday. We're not going to hit every game, but we're going to hit some that really caught my eye. Buccaneers at Saints. The Buccaneers are only 2.5-point favorites. Does this have something to do with that weird-ass game that happened at the end of the year last year where the Saints just blew out the Buccaneers? Like, why? This line screams fraudulent to me.
So the Saints, it does feel like a very trap game, very, icky-ucky game that you wouldn't want to bet on, and I'm not going to be betting on it because it seems like the Saints always own Tom Brady. At least they have the last few games, are the only team in the NFL that has a winning record against Tom Brady, and ultimately they've just had his number for some reason ever since he, came to Tampa Bay. But no more Drew Brees, no more Sean Payton. And I think those were the two that were his kryptonite. I think it was Drew Brees and Sean Payton. If one of those two were there, they could take him down. Neither are there this year. Jameis, I'm not 100% sold on. I know he did beat him. I know they had like a Taysom Hill, Trevor Siemian combo that beat Brady as well. But ultimately, Brady knows his record against the Saints, and he's a man that isn't just playing for rings, he's playing for stats, he's playing for records, everything. So he wants to have a winning record against every NFL team, and I'm almost positive sweeping the Saints this year would swing it to Brady being in favor. So for me, I do think the Bucs cover, but it would not shock me one bit if the Saints just, beat them by 7.
Yeah, you are right on with that stat. I looked it up. Tom Brady is 4-5 against the Saints. So if they did sweep, it would flip that tide in his favor. He would have a winning record against them. And
then also real quick, like he said, this is his last. I mean, not official, but there's been a lot of Tom Brady's in his last season, going to be his last year. So it's just little icing and incentives on the cake where, he looks at Gisele, he's like, check this one off the box, just got to do Super Bowl and I'm yours, honey.
What an unrealistic expectation that sets. I'm just trying to go home, make dinner, hey honey, I got home on time. I'm going to spend the evening with you, whatever. Tom Brady's like, hey, hold on, hon, Gisele, I got to go, win another Super Bowl real quick. So I have more than every other franchise has ever had in the history of football. And, I can't have I have a winning record against 31 teams, but that's not all of them. So that's just selfish. That is just selfish.
Exactly.
I'm over it. Another game that I'm looking forward to, Dolphins at Ravens. Both of these teams looked really good in week 1. Dolphins looked good. We'll see how, Tua progresses, but he had a good game against Bill Belichick, which, fun fact, Tua is 4-0 against Bill Belichick as a starting quarterback. So not a stat that I would have guessed, but hey, it's one that exists. The Ravens are 3.5-point favorites at home. How do we feel about this line? Because to me, this seems like I really like the Ravens here.
I'm right with you, man. I feel like Lamar is also a man on a mission, not signing that contract, betting on himself. I don't know if you saw that first down he had, but it was like a 3rd and 10, and he scrambled around probably like 20 yards in the backfield and ultimately looped back around and ended up getting the first down. And it's one of those plays where you're like, man, this dude, he is like special and can, create plays that pretty much no other quarterback can because he's that fast. So for me, yeah, I'm liking Lamar and the Ravens. They took the Jets down by 15, which, double-digit win. They did cover. So I think they're in a bit of a groove. We saw, Bateman and Devin Duvernay have a good game. So there's no, downside of Hollywood Brown leaving and not having good wide receivers. Andrew also played decent. So if Lamar just does his thing, I think they should easily be able to cover it, in which the Dolphins, I feel like they've been beaten up on a bad Patriots team. It's kind of just been Bill Belichick versus, everyone at this point.
Yeah, I believe in Tua. I don't believe in Tua that much. So give me the Ravens at home. I think that's going to be a big difference as well. Last game from the Sunday day slate, I had to talk about it because it's my team. Bengals at Cowboys. Bengals are 7.5-point favorites. Over-unders 43.5. I'm going to go ahead and just say this. I think Joe Burrow comes out, decimates them, and is like, hey, just in case you forgot, I'm still him.
I agree, man, and I think we're going to see a similar thing of Jamar Chase versus Trevon Diggs, and Diggs is going to be like, all right, baby, I got the best. I'm going up against Chase, probably the best receiver he's covered. I don't know who he's faced, but Chase, obviously, we know, is a very talented wide receiver, so Diggs is going to think he's going to be able to lock him down, but as we know, Chase is just going to be too good. Will likely be able to get over top of him once, and I'm calling it now. I think we're going to see at least a 40, 50-yard touchdown to Chase.
I love that. So for all of you both fantasy players and sports bettors out there, I don't know what the player prop is for Jamar Chase on longest pass or longest reception, but something to look at. Because
I agree.
I would absolutely bet that as well. I think the Bengals covered. I don't think this game will be particularly close, but we'll see. Sunday Night Football, Bears-Packers. I don't know how this game continues to be Sunday Night Football every year. I hate it. It brings me so much pain because Aaron Rodgers is, he has owned the Bears. But the Packers are 9.5-point favorites. they got whooped by the Vikings. Like, the Vikings had that game from start to finish. There at no point were the Vikings in any jeopardy to lose that game. Are the Packers really 9.5 points better than the Chicago Bears?
Part of me, it's weird because the Bears, I feel like they should have a little bit better odds than 9.5 because they just took down the 49ers, in which we all thought the Niners were going to dominate them. But granted, sloppy game, really rainy, so conditions were different. But Fields, if he, I hate to say it, if he is the real deal or, a good quarterback, then he could really, affect this spread. And honestly, I think he'll be able to cover this if it stays at 9.5, which I'm sure it will. But the Packers, we saw what happened last year. I forget who they played week 1, but they got dominated week 1 last year and then bounced back. I think maybe against the Bears even, but I don't know. Week 2, they did bounce back for sure, and Rodgers, it was his little relaxed speech and said, we got this under control, and sure enough, he did. Granted, they don't have Devontae Adams anymore, and they have guys like Lazard who might not play, and Sammy Watkins and Watson who's dropping wide open passes, but ultimately, after a blowout, I think Rodgers will be on a mission. It's tough because the Bears, they don't have that defense anymore, and part of me, I hate both teams, so it's really tough being a Lions fan. I hope they tie, honestly. I'd love to see like a nice old 2020 tie.
It's absolutely possible, especially
we saw one almost 2 week 1, so
that was,
you never know. But for me, I think Bears cover.
That 4 o'clock window was just insane last week. The end of the Steelers game and the end of the Colts game. Just absolutely wild. You hit the nail on the head with that Packers deduction from last year. They lost to the Saints 38-3 in week 1, got absolutely killed. And then they hung up 35 on the Lions, won 35-17.
That's right. It was the Lions. They bounced back.
So no wonder you remember, right?
All right, so then maybe they will blow out the Bears, honestly.
We'll see. I don't know how I feel about that game yet. We'll see if the line gets to 10. If the line gets to 10, I'll probably bet the Bears. We get a doubleheader Monday Night Football game. We get Titans at Bills, Vikings at Eagles. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm much more excited to watch Vikings at Eagles, but Titans at Bills, the Titans lost to the Giants. They kind of gave that game away. The Bills are 9.5 point favorites.
That's weird. I should say that's weird because, it did just lose the Giants. And, Derrick Henry, he looked all right. But I don't know if you saw the play where he got, depleted. And that was the first time I've ever seen anyone knock Henry off his feet. It was a bit of, a blindside chip where he just did not see the dude. And granted, 9 times out of 10, no matter who you're hitting, you're going to knock him down. We saw Leonard Fournette do it to Micah Parsons. Yeah. It's just, it happens. So it was just really weird seeing Henry go down like that. And part of me is like, maybe he bounces back from this and remembers, no, I'm the king. That doesn't happen to the king. I do that to others. So we saw what happened. I want to say, was it when Josh Norman was on the Bills when Henry did his big stiff arm. So we might see a Henry stiff arm part 2, which would be super cool. But ultimately, the Bills, they looked phenomenal against the Super Bowl champs Rams. I think they will cover, but Derrick Henry, I think he's going to post some highlights. I just don't think the Titans have enough weapons. And then if the Giants can hang 21 and win the game on a 2-point conversion, I think the Bills should easily be able to get in the 30s. And if the Titans just can't score, then it'll be a blowout.
Yeah, I think this game's going to come down to whether or not Vrabel can keep it close, keep it low scoring, make it a ground and pound plotting fest. We'll see. I like Vrabel as a head coach. 9.5 is an interesting line. I would probably take the Titans, but this game is I might stay away from it entirely. I tell you what I will be on, though. I will be on the under. 49.5 I think is too many points. But the Monday Night Football finisher, which I don't know what time it's going to be kicking off, but for me, who is in Eastern Standard Time, if we have a 9 o'clock kickoff, I'm going to hate it because the game looks to be absolutely electric. Vikings at Eagles. Eagles are 1.5 point favorites at home. Over-under is 51.5. This might be the best game of the weekend.
Yeah, this is going to be a good game. And lucky for you, and me as well, because I'm an East Coast guy, it is an 8:30 game. So it's you take your pros and your cons because it is going to run. It is going to run into the Bills-Titans game. So hopefully that's a blowout, and we can just flip on over to the Eagles-Vikings. But if it's close, we'll be doing the old flip back and forth, double screen action, maybe have two TVs set up or what.
Look, the two TVs thing is like, you got to get it at some point. Like, obviously, I do not do the decor in my home. I'm sitting behind a map. Like, if that was me, it'd be all, jerseys and all that good stuff. So I don't do the decoration in my home. But two TVs, you got to get it done, boys. That's put it on your Christmas list. Just talk the girlfriend, wife, whatever, into getting the second television.
100%. And even if it's not the second TV, just bust out the laptop too. It works. Throw the red zone on the laptop, have the home team on the big screen, and you'll be good to go. And then let the lady, do her thing in the other room or whatever.
Hey, this is what you come to this podcast for. Advice on your electronics. This is a pro electronics podcast, but man, I really truly think Justin Jefferson may go off in this game.
He's going to be going against Slay, so it'll be interesting. DJ Chark did catch a touchdown over Slay, and he didn't. I mean, Jared Goff wasn't passing a whole lot until the second half, and ultimately, the first half they looked good, and it pretty much just opened up a little bit more because Swift dominated so much in the first half, and then they crowded the box, and receivers were getting more open. So it's hard for me to say, but what I do know is they don't just have Darius Slay, they got James Bradbury, and they added Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, a solid nickelback or safety, wherever they want to play him at. So it'll be interesting to see Jefferson up against, honestly, I shouldn't be saying this because he just went up against Jair Alexander, an all-pro cornerback who he dominated.
Yep.
And if he can do that against Alexander, he can do it against anyone. So it wouldn't shock me, if Jay Jettis had another big game and just dominated for your fantasy squad. But I saw Jalen Hurts run quite a bit last week. I think he's going to be doing the same thing. He is probably one of the smartest quarterbacks I've ever seen. I should say ever seen, but, seen. And he just, everything he was doing, from slides to throwing out of bounds to rolling out to running, whatever, it was always the right decision. He was always making the most of every single play. He ran the RPO perfectly. Miles Sanders seems to be a solid running back this year, so if he is good, and Sirianni is giving him touches, then that's another thing the defense will have to worry about. And then to top it all off, A.J. Brown was the missing puzzle piece. He absolutely just dominated the Lions. No matter who was on him, basically, he was just finding space, getting open, catching 50-yard passes, doing it all. The only thing he didn't do was get in the end zone, and that was basically because the Eagles wanted to get 4 rushing touchdowns.
So I have to ask, who you got winning this game?
For me, it's tough. I am a bit of an Eagles homer because I love my boy Jalen Hurts, but and I do, Vikings interdivision, and I don't want them to win, so I will be rooting for the Eagles. And the Vikings are, I don't know, the Eagles are home. Okay,
yep.
This is a tough one. I think I would go the Eagles, but it wouldn't shock me if the Vikings win. I think it'll be really close. The 2 points is interesting because it wouldn't shock me if, this is a 27-21 game with, Jalen Hurts, or Kirk Cousins, I should say, coming down to get the game-winning touchdown. They win by 1 or vice versa. So I think the Eagles win, but the Vikings, if it gets to 3, I'll for sure take the Vikings. If it stays at 2, I'll probably take the Eagles.
Love it. Love it. I actually, and this might be the dumbest thing that I have ever said onto the internet, but I could absolutely see this being a preview of the NFC Championship. Like, I think these teams are that good. I'm excited for this game. I'm going to take the Vikings, though, just to be different. This game's a coin flip. I'm just going to take the Vikings just to see which one of us is right, Adam.
I like it.
But thank you so much for coming on, man. An absolutely electric show. Make sure you go follow him all over social media at EverydayFFB on Twitter. You put out incredible content, and check out the fantasy rankings on Fantasy Pros, obviously, because I mean, who doesn't want to win their fantasy matchup every week? And you can do that with Adam's help. Again, thanks so much for coming on, man. Absolutely enjoyed it.
Yeah, for sure, man. Thank you. I had a blast. This was awesome.
Oh, and if you guys enjoyed this as much as Adam just did, be sure to hit that subscribe button on Spotify, YouTube, wherever. Leave a review, leave a comment. Let me know what you want to talk about. I want to hear it. You guys are what make this podcast so fun. Thank you so much, and we will see you in the next one.